Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
Okay. Okay. Hello, Pamela. Can you hear me?
Yes, Chairman. Sorry about that.
Hello, Pamela. You're very welcome to our committee meeting this evening. I'm going to give you 10 minutes to present, and then if you're happy, we'll have 10 minutes for member questions. We have quite a heavy agenda tonight, so we appreciate you keeping the time as much as possible.
Thank you, Chair. I will endeavour to do that.
Thank you.
So if I can first share my screen. Yeah, is that come on?
That's fine.
Okay, and then I'll just go to the slideshow. Okay, is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'm always a wee bit wary of technology, but so in the first instance, again, can I thank the Council for the invitation to come along to present and to outline the work that we have been doing with, many of your members and your officials throughout the past year. And I would like to wish you all in the first instance a happy new year. The contents of the presentation, obviously I'm going to have to skim through a lot of the work in the time allocated, but happy to take questions. And the other thing is that I hope you have a copy of our annual report, which goes into more detail on these things. So the first thing I want to talk about is just our current work on the Interreg 5A projects. There you can see the list, and again, the detail is there in the annual report of what those all are. Some of them are more pertinent to ABC Council than others, and again, I'm going to highlight that. But the one I want to talk about is the one which we are leading on, and that is the East Borders leading on the FASTER project. Interreg 5A funded. In a nutshell, 73 rapid 50 kilowatt chargers will be installed across the west coast of Scotland, Northern Ireland and the border counties. In Northern Ireland, which is obviously the area that we're interested in here, the procurement lead and the organisation working with your council primarily on your sites along with ourselves is Ulster University. So you are an associate partner on the project, which means that there will be opportunities for the chargers within your region. So we've done the site selection, and in Northern Ireland we have identified 19 sites. 5 are currently doubles, 14 are singles, but we're hoping, because we've received additional money or will be on the project, to make a lot of the singles doubles. In terms of the overall project, Scottish procurement is complete and they have started installing. In ROI, they've completed their design team procurement and that's up and running. And I've said on this, because I've done this in December, the design team tender in Northern Ireland has been issued. It hasn't yet, but it will be by the end of the month. And there's also behavioural change element on the project, which is around encouraging the user and people to buy electric vehicles. So yourselves in Armagh, Banbridge, Craigavon, currently those are the 3 sites where the chargers will be installed. It's actually a very complex procedure to get a site which actually in the first instance has headroom. And then there's a number of criteria that we need as well within the project. So those three sites are what have been approved at this stage. And those will be fast chargers, basically 20 minutes and your car will be charged, as opposed to what you mostly currently have in the borough, which is the 22 kilowatt, which means a number of hours. So that, and I'm happy to take questions about that later. The big opportunity coming now this year, and I mean it's literally hopefully about to launch, is this Peace Plus programme. Now, it is a combination of the old Interreg and PACE as we know it, but the total value of the project is 1.1 billion. And I mean, that is excellent. And as you can see, and this again, you will see this table in the East Border Annual Report. This outlines, where the opportunities are and under the investment areas, etc. I just draw your attention here to 1.1. Theme 1.1, the local community peace action plan. So when you probably think about peace, within ABC and about what is happening, you'd be thinking about your traditional peace action plans. And again, 110 million out of this 1.1 billion is there, but that's across the 11 councils in Northern Ireland and the 6 border councils. So that's a relatively small amount of money in this overall programme. So this is where it's different in this programme, because you'll have other officers across the council involved in different parts of this programme. For example, under 1.4, re-imaging communities, that is where you have a number of capital build projects selected there. And again, the council there is well placed to apply there. Again, right across this, and I don't have the time to go into it, but happy to even come and present to the council on PACE if that was something you required. We are working with your officers across all these different opportunities and across these areas. The timeline for that, we're hoping that it will launch, soon. I was speaking with Chief Executive SUPB actually at an event in Armagh today, and she was saying she's hopeful that it should be launched, in this first quarter anyway. So again, that's a major opportunity. We have thematic working groups across these different themes, which again are there to, to help your council in conjunction with the others in the region to draw down and maximise your monies under that. So that's just our progress in that. Another development that is really fairly recent is in terms of east-west linkages. We're a cross-border organisation, and in 2026 we'll be 50 years old. We've never dipped our toe into east-west relations. We really didn't see that we had to, or we felt the need. But particularly after Brexit, we thought, this is something that it probably would make sense for us to do. We received some monies from the Reconciliation Fund in Dublin towards this, not significant money, but it was enough to enable us to start to liaise on an east-west basis. We had an excellent exchange visit with 28 elected members and officials, 7th to the 9th of November. We took the opportunity to launch our charter because that was something that had been postponed as a result of COVID in the House of Lords. And we had a range of meetings with peers, with MPs across, the whole of the United Kingdom, and of course with our own Northern Ireland MPs as well. We also had a reception hosted there by the Irish ambassador. But very, very good visit. I think even our members were encouraged and realised that this is something that actually will reinforce the work that we do on a cross-border basis. Next steps in that, we're continuing. We've got linkages now with the Welsh Government across the Irish Sea Symposium. And that's about promoting opportunities across the Irish Sea, working closely there with officials in the Welsh Government. And then the geographical area also includes Scotland and England. So we're hoping that there'll be some small scale funding for cooperation projects there, and ensure the linkages established through EU programmes are not lost, because if you look at colleagues in Scotland and in England, they're losing all of that. And there was an Irish-Welsh programme, for example, in Interreg. So the governments there want to continue those. Then the other opportunities that we have, and this has come through from the Shared Island Fund, is the Local Authority Development Scheme. And there are, 4 specific projects there which your council are involved with. 2 of those, the first 2 We facilitated those here in East Border region. You'll see Monaghan County Council there across all of these. This scheme has said that because it's issuing money from the Irish government, the lead council has to be in Ireland. So Monaghan is lead in biodiversity for the 6 councils of East Border, including ABC. And the hydrogen one is the same, Monaghan and the 6 councils. The Ulster Canal there, I believe that was ICBAN maybe facilitated, and I'm not sure about the last one there, but it wasn't East Border specifically, but successful. So you have at least 4 there that you're successful in. And then finally, what I just want to do, and had been asked to do this, was to try to give you a feel for how much investment ABR have levered into ABC since, well, I was asked to do it since 2015, but 2015 was the end of the Interreg 4 programme. So I've left that because we'll give those figures to you before, but starting really with the new programme Interreg 5A in 2016. So with the Co-Innovate programme, that's led by Intertrade Ireland, but it's for small businesses. 124 ABC companies have been involved and been assisted through that programme. And that programme's literally coming to an end. So that's probably your final figure. It's a 25 million fund in total. So for 1,400 SMEs. So I have taken your 124 and sort of divided that down to come to it. Now that is an approximate figure. It could be slightly more, it could be slightly less, but you know, one significant investment in ABC as a result of that programme. And the other thing that doesn't document is these companies were assisted maybe to export, to retain staff, etc. So there'd be a greater economic advantage there as a result of that. The CAN project, which is the biodiversity one, again, these are maybe it's 7 million or something overall, but you had an actual full-time position there in ABC funded through that programme to work, within your region, and then there's various other parts of the programme specifically there. The Ulster Canal Greenway, again, it's about 7.95 million, but the small element coming over there into Armagh, and that we're looking there about 1.1 million. Now that project is currently facing challenges with the timeline for Interreg. We're trying to work through those, and also looking at if it doesn't, if it's not able to complete within that timeline, look for other opportunities to fund it. The Faster project I just talked about, give your sites in ABC, we're looking at approximately 500,000 specifically into ABC. Your shared or your reconciliation fund, then that's where I talk about the east-west linkages, etc. Overall, we've received about 100,000 in a couple of different calls there. So if you take a sixth of that, 6 East Border councils, you're looking about 20,000. The shared island, those 2 schemes that the East Border facilitated, you're 298,000. So again, as I say, there's a health warning on this, give or take a few euros there, but in total we're talking about 3.546 million euros. And if you contrast that with the ABC contribution to ABR over the 6 years of 120,000 sterling, I think you will see that is value for money. So, Chair, I hope I haven't gone over there. I tried to speed through it, but I'm happy for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. Yep, and appreciate the report that you've just given us. Can I just ask you to open up, going back to the charging points at the very start, were you able to give any timescale in relation to them being in place at all?
Oh, absolutely, Chair. The deadline for this project is December 23.
Okay.
So these chargers will be installed. I know our own board members in East Border have asked us that even at the AGM there, because we've talked about this project for a few years now, but we can't see chargers in the ground. They have to be installed, but it will be the second half of the year. The actual installation is a few days, but it's all of the work that goes on behind the scenes with headroom and you know, access to the grid and everything like that. But no, they will certainly. And then also there's an app that you know, with this project as well. So anyone, you know, obviously if you can charge a car in 20 minutes, you want that as opposed to the slow charge. So there's an app where you can easily see, not just in ABC, but across the, you know, the whole area as to where the fast chargers are. So they'll bring you to them.
Lovely. Thank you, Pamela. Are there any questions from the floor? And at this point, can I ask any members that are members of EBR if they can declare that, please? Okay. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Chair. Just conflict of interest, member of East Border Region. Thank you.
Councillor O'Hanlon.
Chair, the same as well, and maybe whenever, if you would permit me, just to say thanks to Pamela and the team. You know, often we see where councils ask for contributions, and I think tonight's presentation, brief as it has, shows where we're getting value for money. So thanks to Pamela and Det for the team for their work.
Okay, thank you. I see no other indications, Pamela, so it seems you're going to get off quite easy tonight. So in any case, thank you for presenting to us. We appreciate your attendance and good to see you again.
Not at all. And hopefully I'll see you in person next year.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, members, our next presentation is from Shane Campbell from ICBAN. I think it will take just a minute or two until we have Shane on screen.
Good evening, Chair.
Shane, you're there. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you again. You have 10 minutes approximately to present and 10 minutes for questions if there are any at the end, Shane, because we've quite a heavy agenda tonight, but you're very welcome. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to share my screen now. And if I can check that you're seeing that now on the full screen.
Yes. Yep.
Sure. Thank you very much for the opportunity to meet with the Council again this evening. I'm going to present our work for the 6 months to the 30th of September past. And Lisa had also asked me beforehand if I could present on our delivery programme since 2015 to date. So I'll just cover that towards the end. The 5 areas I'm going to cover are a strategy programme called the Framework of Regional Priorities and how that's going, our work on broadband infrastructure, our leading on a regional literary tourism initiative, our various studies and work around Brexit, and how we've contributed to the Council's international linkages framework. The FRP strategy was launched, the Framework of Regional Priorities as it's called, was launched in 2021. And that was supported by the ABC Council and the other 7 member councils of the ICBAN partnership, which, to give you a sense of the geography of the Central Border region area, includes Fermanagh and Omagh, Mid-Ulster, Donegal, Sligo, Leitrim, Cavan and Monaghan. This is our most active area of work as we're developing a pipeline of projects for the various funding initiatives that are out there or are going to come on stream very soon, including, of course, Peace Plus, UK regional funds like Levelling Up, Shared Prosperity and also Shared Island. We have a strategy that's across 5 thematic areas, and one of them, for example, human capital pillar. Just at the top there, we have a regional steering group of educational institutions, including Southern Regional College, working with us on that. Now, those 6 educational institutions in the region have been developing about 4 to 5 projects that they're looking at specifically with a view to Peace Plus submissions. In the Greening the Region area, we have a number of different groups. We have a climate friendly farming group and a biodiversity group that has been looking at a number of projects, including hedgerows and spaces for nature, particularly with a view to the 5.1 call coming up for Peace Plus. That is an area that is engaged in by all of the council areas of the ICMAN partnership. The meeting just at the start of this week, and that was attended by all 8 ICMAN councils, and also Derry City and Strabane Council, and that group's also opened up to the East Border region for membership and involvement as well. We have a group on water quality. We're also involved in the geothermal project that's been led by the Geological Survey of Northern Ireland and the Geological Survey of Ireland. And we have a group that's working on the Ulster Canal that's involving of the council chief executives, directors, or heads of service even, and also the chief executive of Waterways Ireland. What we're looking at there is trying to build on the work that's happening in and around Clonus to be able to look towards a medium and a long-term plan to try and extend the canal from Clonus back towards Lough Neagh and ultimately on to the Lagan Basin. Our work this year will see us becoming involved in a number of areas, including continuing to promote our climate change project called Border Transition. We've been delivering that in Cavan, Leitrim and Sligo in the past year, and we're looking towards being able to deliver that in other council areas in the next while. We're also looking towards our work in rural regeneration and smart towns and villages and general strategic development and community initiatives, all with a view towards Peace Plus. One of the most involved areas of our work in the last number of years has been representations around broadband. We've completed about 4 reports, I believe it is, and one of those, the most effective of those, has been the clawback of 14 million of funding that is coming from through BT back to the Northern Ireland government. This is a result of our advocacy work and our programme that has been picked up by the Northern Ireland Audit Office and the Stormont Public Accounts Committee. We've backed the ICMAN case, carried out the investigations, and seen that in terms of the BT funding that was being invested over the last number of years, significant portions of that have been invested in urban centres, in areas that didn't need subventions, that were commercially viable instead, where there wasn't a market failure, and instead these money should have been invested in rural areas. So we've been able to secure a 14 million clawback to the government that should be invested into broadband across your council area and the other areas of Northern Ireland. We've also been active behind the work that has led to Project Stratum, and while we obviously weren't the catalyst obviously behind that final project, that was very much down to the Democratic Unionist Party and the Confidence and Supply Agreement. It was our work very much in the early stages that helped develop proposals, point to funding by way of BT accruals, and had made proposals to Minister for Economy at the time, Minister Hamilton, and also the Minister for Finance in Northern Ireland at the time, and engaged extensively with Westminster and Strongman committees on how this money could be realised for what we had ultimately wanted in terms of broadband, fibre, direct fibre delivery to businesses and people across our area. And finally, our work in Northern Ireland is being regarded and examined by the County Council broadband officers who are looking to ensure an oversight of their own National Broadband Ireland programme by looking to the examples of the monitoring and oversight that we've led on north of the border. One of the examples of the projects that we've delivered in terms of immersive technologies and new tech has been Digi2Market, in which we provided opportunities for businesses across the area to consider virtual reality and augmented reality solutions. There's now a digital city portal that's available to any of the SMEs across the region that want to find out how they can actually take forward virtual reality and augmented reality solutions. We had led on a literary tourism project that was EU funded as well, and it was very much about providing opportunities for SMEs to develop and market new and existing literary tourism products. That's led to innovation supports to those SMEs, training supports, and the delivery of a significant number of 14 digital apps across the area. We led on this, and it was delivered in Finland, Scotland, Ireland, and Northern Ireland. So there's a range of apps that are now available to promote literary tourism and experiences to visitors. Our work on Brexit has seen the completion of 4 research exercises and reports, and through those we've heard 2,100 voices on the impacts of Brexit and the protocol impacting on individuals and daily life and also SMEs in the area. We've been drawing on this on the last number of years by way of supporting consultation responses, and laterally that has included submitting to the call for evidence to the House of Lords inquiry into the impacts of Brexit and the protocol, and also similarly to the EU Parliament's Regional Development Research Programme on the regional impacts of Brexit and the protocol. We are planning now to deliver a new programme, a new project on this, which will look at the impacts of Brexit on cooperation in particular within Northern Ireland, North-South, and also on an East-West basis. And my final slide in this progress report here considers the international linkages. Our core network and partnership development work is obviously between the member councils that are on both sides of the border. But one of the new initiatives that we're looking to develop is examining the connections and the perspectives on an East-West basis also, the linkages between our region and GB. So that's something we'll be rolling out now within this year. We continue to promote the area and also ABC, of course, within that council area, as part of our international partnerships, our international development programs, and a number of new island-wide networks that we're involved in. We continue to engage governments on the current funding and future funding supports as necessary for the border region, including for after when River Peace Plus would end. And we use our membership of the Association of European Border Regions to effectively promote our offerings and also to learn best practice. Just my very final slide then is the question of what has ICBAN been generating since 2015. The following direct funding has been generated, and that's the 14 million of clawback of broadband funding from BT for new broadband initiatives. And that's been based on ICBAN's reports and advocacy programs, which have been upheld and supported by Northern Ireland Audit Office and the Stormont Public Accounts Committee. That funding is due to be realised this year and in 2024. Our total amount of funding that we've realised for the EU Interreg programmes is over 2.1 million euros. In terms of the contribution that we receive from the council, that provides an opportunity to lever similar contributions from the other 7 member councils by way of promoting cross-border partnership working. And if we go back to 2015, that has levered some 1.1 million sterling. We've had a range of reconciliation fund projects, totaling about 200,000 euro. Small projects, but very effective projects that can open up great opportunities. And these include engagements with communities and young people, our Brexit studies promoting our cross-border strategic development, capacity building programs. And this includes funding from Irish government recognising the good relations work of the board and the fact that we continue to work on a cross-community, cross-border and a cross-party basis effectively towards the one vision. Just indirectly, finally, I'll note the work of ICBAN in helping advocate and support what has become the Project Stratum programme. Chair, I just want to finish by thanking the Council for its continued support and contributions. I'd also like to thank all of the Council officers for all their support and assistance to us across many initiatives, and in particular also to acknowledge and thank the 4 members who represent the ABC Borough Council on the board of ICBAN, and that's our Chair, Councillor Sam Nicholson, our past Chair, Councillor Eamon McNeil, Councillor Liam Mackle, and Chair, of course, yourself also. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions that the members would have.
Thank you, Shane, for your report. And as indeed you've mentioned, I would want to declare an interest as a member of ICBAN. I don't think there are any other members here tonight in that position. Sorry, okay. Councillor Mackle, do you want to declare an interest?
Yes, I do.
Sorry, didn't see you on there, Councillor Mackle, apologies.
Yes, declare an interest, and just thank Shane and the team for all their work, and thanks for their presentation this evening, Shane.
Thank you, Liam.
Thank you, thank you. Are there any member questions in relation to the presentation that Shane has given? I see no hands, so Shane, we're not going to detain you too long tonight. Thank you very much again for coming in. Good to see you. Hopefully next year we'll see you in person. All right.
Thank you, Chair.
Good night.
Good
Bye.
night. Goodbye.
Okay, members, moving on then. Agenda item 5 is a report from the Head of Strategy and Performance, and I'm going to bring Martina McNulty in 5.1. Martina.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members and colleagues. So the item at 5.1 is the policy screening report. And it is recommended that the report is issued to the Council's Quality Consultees, which includes the Quality Commission for Northern Ireland, and placed on the Council website. It is a decision item, even though it's one of those regular reports that the committee receives, and it provides information on the screening over the period up to this date. So it just requires approval by members. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Martina. Can we have a proposer and seconder for the report, please, Em? Thank you, Councillor Flaherty, seconded by all members. And seconded by Councillor Tinsey, and agreed. Thank you. 5.2, review of Council's policies and approval.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, this is another decision item, and members are asked to consider the content of the report and approve the proposed process for the review of Council policies going forward, where there's no significant change or impact caused as a result of the review. So just by way of background, obviously members are aware that the Council has a large number of policies, and to ensure good governance in the delivery of our services and maintaining compliance with a number of statutory requirements and best practice. Internal guidance has been developed recently and issued to officers on policy development, which advises that all policies require approval by management, relevant service committees, and also this committee prior to full ratification by Council. So when the policies are reviewed at the required frequency, the current process ensures that they're brought back through for member approval. And the process, I think, sometimes can be unwieldy in relation to particular policies where there's no significant change. So the purpose of this report is to ask members to consider and approve an alternative process. And basically the only real change would be that a quarterly report would be provided to this committee in relation to policies that have been reviewed. And it would be by prior agreement of the Policy and Diversity Officer, where the policies have already been approved by EMT. And it doesn't apply to new policies, it's only policies that are for review. So that's not to say that you wouldn't still be receiving, you know, an odd individual report in relation to a new policy or anything like that. This is just to streamline the process for review of those existing policies where there is no significant change. I'm happy to take members' thoughts and views on that. And again, it is a decision item with a recommendation that you accept the content of the report and the new process. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any member comments? If not, can I have a proposer and seconder? Proposed by Alderman Baxter, seconded by Councillor Flaherty, and agreed. Thank you.
No, you're quite all right, Chair. Just a wee note of clarification, perhaps. If, for example, we did come across something in the policy, there's quite a few new ones coming through. Our first port of call then in this instance would be Mary as diversity officer, just better just coming straight to you, Martin. It's only a point for clarification, Chair. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're quite all right. Thank you, Councillor Flaherty. Look, it's like anything else. There's no wrong front door, I suppose, as we always say. So certainly come to myself, speak to Mary, or speak to the, you know, the relevant department, the officer concerned. So, and at any, you know, this will be very closely monitored to make sure that it's working effectively, because at the end of the day, we don't want to do anything that's going to take away from the good governance arrangement that we already have in place, and that members still will always have an opportunity to input to any new well, it doesn't apply to all new policies you will see, and then any revised policies you'll still have an opportunity to input to those. All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you. So I take it that's proposed, seconded, and agreed then by members. 5.3 is a draft workplace domestic abuse and sexual violence policy, and Gary Scott's going to take us through that.
Thank you, Chair. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we've got you, Gary. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair and members. As a decision item, members are being asked to consider the detail of this report and approve the proposed workplace domestic abuse and sexual violence policy as included at Appendix 1 of the report. As part of our ongoing review of Council safeguarding processes, the need for a workplace domestic abuse and sexual violence policy and associated procedures was identified to support the Council in mitigating risk and supporting and safeguarding anyone who's affected by domestic abuse. In context, in the last 12 months from the 1st of October, in the 12 months from the 1st of October to the 30th of September 2022, which is the most recent figures, there were 33,108 domestic abuse incidents in Northern Ireland, which translates into 17 people per 1,000. And within that, there were 22,000 criminal offences. Domestic abuse and sexual violence is generally recognised as a pattern of behaviour, which is characterised by the exercise of coercive control and a misuse of power by one person over the other. It is usually frequent and persistent and is used to harm or punish and frighten the victim. Well, women still make up the largest portion of domestic abuse victims, but men can also be victims. And it can also occur in any relationship, regardless of gender orientation, and has a lasting impact on the lives of those impacted by it. While domestic abuse happens most often in intimate partner relationships, it can also happen between parents and children, brothers and sisters, family members and grandparents, and same-sex or teenage relationships. And while it is often physical and includes sexual violence and abuse, it also includes coercive control and stalking. Home and work issues cannot always be separated, and domestic abuse and sexual violence can impact greatly on the working life of someone who is being abused, especially in the current world of agile working. As a person can continue to experience violence and abuse through the workplace. For example, abusive or threatening phone calls, emails, and could be particularly vulnerable going to and from their place of work or working from home in the current agile working environment. As all of this can affect their performance, attendance, timekeeping, career prospects, and job security. This workplace policy, along with supporting procedures, with information and practical measures, how Council will support employees who have been affected by or at risk of domestic abuse and sexual violence. It will also provide support in the workplace by raising awareness and signposting employees to organisations that will provide special support to anyone experiencing domestic abuse. Having a workforce policy that supports employees experiencing domestic abuse and sexual violence can help Council recruit and retain staff, and can also increase staff morale and productivity and prevent unnecessary disciplinary action, as well as communicating a powerful message to both employees and potential employees. Having a workforce policy will not only make sound business and economic sense for Council, but importantly will help Council fulfil our legal duty of care to our employees. There is nothing contentious in this proposed workplace policy, and there will be minimal cost implications, which are documented in the report itself. I therefore recommend that members approve the proposed workplace domestic abuse and sexual violence policy. So thank you, Chair, and I'm happy to take any questions from members.
Okay, thank you, Gary. An important piece of work. If we have no member questions, can we have a proposer and seconder, please, Em? Proposed by Council. You want to speak, Councillor Tinsley? Yep, Councillor Tinsley.
Chair, I know that every policy, it's not coming, can you hear me okay? I know every policy we have in place is exceptionally important. This one here is so sensitive that I want to ensure that there's proper training. I just don't know how we're, I think this, and I'm happy to second or propose or whatever is needed and done with this. But one person, I wouldn't like to think it's just going to be one person receiving this training, the safeguarding officer, because this isn't something that will want to be spread around. And if someone is confides in their line manager, I'm just curious to know what kind of training is going to be set in place for this particular policy. And I know we're only at the draft stage, but just like to have clarification on that.
Thank you. Yes, there is already an e-learning package available to all employees in the context of domestic abuse and sexual violence. It will also be supported by workshops and direct training to line managers and people in particular positions. In addition to that, it will be communicated by a communication piece through insight to all employees to advise them that this is in place. And we have already provided training to a number of members of staff to support employees in these circumstances who are experiencing domestic abuse through ONUS, who's a partner organisation who would support organisations in developing the policy and provide training and signposting and supporting staff who are the victims of and experiencing domestic abuse. So that is already in place. So in addition to the domestic abuse officers, there will be safe place advocates who will be people who would have specialist training in supporting and signposting staff in the context of anyone who is either experiencing domestic abuse or an employee who would have concerns about another member of staff also experiencing domestic abuse.
Thank you, Chair.
And sorry, can I just say one more thing? That I did run a domestic abuse workshop for elected members last year, and I think it was in line with International Women's Day. And I'm more than happy to offer that as a service to elected members as well, if they want to take that on board in 2023. I'm quite happy to offer that as a training awareness system.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Flaherty.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Gary. I know you've worked intensively on this, and you must be reading my notebook here on the desk, because the notes I've made was to refer to the workshop that you have just referred to, because I did attend that workshop, and it was very, very useful, very detailed. But Gary, I've spoken to you about this particular issue a number of times in different contexts, and it's clear to see, you know, you've taken good advice about this. You have plenty of advice there to get if you have a look there. I think what struck me, excuse me, Gary, was when you look at number 6 there in the policy, and you scroll down there and you see how many pieces of legislation actually relate to this. You see how many articles relate to this issue, and you see how many guidelines and strategies and things, and there's different policies even in our own council. There's a full page there listed, and you've had to go through all that in the under this remit of the 7-year action plan, which takes us to 2023, where we now are. The delivery of those actions is due this spring from the Department of Justice and the Department of Health. I'll believe it when I see it, given the state that we are in. That's where the focus should be. Gary, I'm very proud that we are able to deliver this in some form in council, because this is not going to be even a quick fix. Councillor Tinsley is quite right about the staff involved in this. That's the other note I had about the safe place advocates. How many of them there will be, because the burden and the pressure on them will be quite great in these circumstances, and it's not a short period of time. These issues tend to linger and drag on in these families for years, and that is, in my view, the fault of the Department of Justice, but that is not for this chamber, and that is not for tonight. So I'm happy to propose this if it hasn't already been proposed. And we'll continue to scrutinise and keep a wee tight eye on that, given, as you yourself, Chair, have said, this is a very, very important issue, particularly now in this borough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Flaherty. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to echo what the previous speakers have said in terms of the great work that has been done on this, and it's good to see it is being drafted and hopefully be put in place. And we just want to voice our support for it. I think particularly of those statistics that Gary mentioned, it's very important that we do have the appropriate mechanisms in place so that people, any employees in this organisation, can access that support, help and advice if they need it. So we very much support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. So it was proposed by Councillor Tinsley, seconded by Councillor Flaherty, and agreed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on then to agenda item 6, and that's a report from Mark Halliday in relation to the external lighting of council buildings. Mark.
Sorry. Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. This report relates to the light-up schedule for 2023, and it's a decision item in regards to lighting up the council's designated council buildings for a number of charities that are detailed in Appendix 1. As you can see, as a large number of charities are supported through this initiative. As normal practice, if any new requests come in during the year, they'll be brought through the party leaders to be added to the schedule. So happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Mark. Do we have a proposer and seconder? Proposed by Councillor Lavery, seconded by Councillor Flaherty. Councillor Flaherty, you want to speak on it? There you go.
Thank you, Chair. I think I speak on this nearly every year. We know, I'm happy to second this, by the way, just to put that part of it to bed. This is actually becoming more and more popular for charities, and most of us know we get requests for this quite a lot. I notice even on that list there, Jonathan and Mark, sorry Mark, there's what, 56 or so penciled in, sort of semi-permanent. You can't tell me there's no cost to this. There is a cost to this, surely, with staff and time and lights and things. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, look, I can see the benefit of it, and you know, I've asked just for a number of them. There's a number of them I specifically do look out for, and charities that I would work with. And I've said this before. I have said this before. I know I've said this before. The awareness raising of this is really quite important to these charities, and has been more so, particularly over the pandemic that we've come through, and fundraising issues and things. We don't seem to fundraise with this at all unless the charity does. Communication from the organisation is much, much better than it ever was, and so kudos to them. And I know the stock photos go out, and it does illustrate it very well on social media. I say this to you, I've said this before, I say it with a feeling of some experience. I do think that this should link much better with the Lord Mayor's office, for example. I think it would be much more beneficial if with regards to this report, if those charities were linked a wee bit better to an event or to an awareness event. I know some of us do that ourselves with families or with charitable groups, but if it was formalised a wee bit better, I think that would be a benefit. But as I've said that before, Jonathan knows my feelings on this. It's a good thing to do, and it's the right thing to do, and it's a nice thing to do, and it shows our lovely borough off too, and our lovely buildings, and that we're doing something. So look, I'm happy to second it, but just those comments I'd like noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Flaherty. Councillor O'Hanlon.
Yeah, Chair, thank you, and thanks for the report. Mark, I think the basics of the issue has been covered well, and particularly by Councillor Flaherty. However, I think at last monthly meeting, Councillor O'Neill raised an issue about buildings that were on the list, that were supposed to be lit up, that on a number of occasions it happened that they weren't. And Councillor Flaherty very rightly highlights the importance of lighting up these buildings as much more than just a story or colours on a building. They means a lot to people involved in organisations and to families across the borough. And I think it's important that where we have agreed to light buildings up, that they are lit up. And I think I know that point has been well made by Councillor O'Neill, and I know she has sought assurances that that will continue to be the case going forward. But look, thanks for Mark for the report, and I'm happy to support what we have in front of us tonight.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hanlon. I'm led to believe that that has been reviewed since the incident where it wasn't lit up recently. Hopefully that won't happen again. Alderman Baxter.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Can I just ask through you to Mark? We're talking about council buildings. I know in the past we used to light up the Dromore Viaduct and the Armagh jail, and which would have a fairly big impact, like especially the viaduct probably in Dromore, where all the passing traffic sitting the A1 there. And I know that hasn't been lit up, but it did do in the past, as far as I'm aware. Is that something that we do or we don't do, or was that a one-off? Or I'm just not sure yet.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Alderman Baxter. Yeah, the viaduct, I believe, was lit up for one or two particular charities that requested it, but I can look into the logistics of having that done more often if it's something that wants to be considered.
Okay. Alderman Baxter, you want to come back?
And I suppose, we are talking about cost neutral, but as Councillor Flaherty says, I suppose it's office for time and all that. If we're lighting the viaduct, I suppose there is a cost there. But I would just be conscious that I suppose all the charities are maybe, and there is a lot of them, and there's maybe a case for, has it lost a bit of impact? Because I know when there's 4 or 5 a year, the council put out in the social media and all these things were lit up and bit of an impact. There's an awful lot now, and I don't know just how we can change that. I don't think there's anything probably we can do. And more requests will come in probably. And I suppose if we light the viaduct, more people will see it and go, oh, what are they lighting the viaduct for? Well, I'm involved with, but I think we should probably look at just treating them all maybe the same anyway. But I think we need a further discussion at some stage about just the sheer amount that there is, and maybe not that we limit charities, but how we sort of promote the charities that we're looking at, and try and raise awareness, because that's what the charities are trying to do, trying to raise the awareness. But by doing that, and then by all the charities coming, I suppose it's maybe diluted in the fact that the Civic Centre, for example, is nearly a different colour every night of the week, and people don't really know. I don't mean that to be flippant, but people don't really know what it's for. So I think a further discussion, maybe at some stage. I'm not saying bring back a formal paper or whatever, but I think we need to be mindful and maybe bring that back at some stage and have a chat about it, even informally. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for tonight. It's proposed, seconded, and agreed. Okay. Can I seek a proposer and seconder to go into committee for consideration of the confidential items of business tonight? Proposed Alderman Baxter, seconded by Councillor Lavery, and agreed. Members and online viewers, in accordance with Schedule 6 of the Local Government Act, we will now be moving into a confidential business session of Council. This means that we will be turning off the public feed of the meeting. This will be returned when the meeting is restarted. Can I ask ICT officers to please turn off the feed and confirm with me when the confidential section of the meeting can proceed? Thank you. Okay, members, agenda item 12 is any other relevant business. I have one piece, and that is from Councillor Lavery. Councillor Lavery.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just a quick one. I'm aware that Belfast City Council have made the move to become an accredited living wage employer. I've spoken with Sharon McNichol, the director, on this. My query would be for a report to be brought back to this committee in due course to see what steps would need to be taken for ABC Council to become an accredited living wage employer, and what the potential consequences would be for staff and contractors. I know Council isn't currently an accredited living wage employer, but I've been informed that the lowest hourly rate paid in Council is above the real living wage of £10.90. We would like to maybe issue to be explored a bit further to whether to see Council will be willing to move to become an accredited wage employer. But sure, just if that report and that information could be brought back in due course. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Baxter, did you want to?
Yeah, just briefly, and if we are a living wage employer, what does this accreditation do? Because we're doing it anyway. We're investors in people. We're paying all this money into all these different ASOs and all that type of thing every year, and charters and all sorts. Is this just another charter, or what is it? Because if we're doing it already, I don't really see, for the want of a better term, I don't really see the point if we're doing it anyhow. It'd be like, it's well documented. We're a living wage employer and have been.
Okay, Councillor Lavery wants to come back in on that point. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Those are similar questions that I would like answered to myself to get the firmness of mind regarding this issues, and whether or not in becoming an accredited living wage employer that would give a guarantee for potentially workers' rights going forward within this organisation. But a number of those questions that Councillor Baxter raised, I would like the answer to also. So I'm happy to wait for that information to come forward in due course, so that both I, Councillor Baxter, and all elected members of this council will be able to be informed of the highest standards before we make any decision. Thank you.
Okay, on that basis then we'll ask an operator to draft a report and come back in due course. Okay, thank you. Okay, members, that concludes tonight's business. Thank you for your cooperation and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.